The story begins by revealing to the audience that 1 in every 21 African Americans will be murdered in their lifetime, with most dying at the hands of other African Americans. After that, we travel to 1984 in South Los Angeles, where Three Styles, a 10-year-old boy, lives. The little boy meets his friends on the way to school until one of them leads them to a crime scene where they see human remains. Shortly thereafter, we see Tren at his school, where he is known as the class clown. Because of this, the teacher orders him to teach the rest of the class. While he is doing so, one of his classmates mocks him, sparking a fight between the two. After that scuffle, the teacher calls Reba, Trey's mother, informing her that her son is very intelligent but has a very bad temper. As soon as the boy arrives home, Reba scolds him for his behavior, reminding him that he had promised not to get into any more fights. Having broken that commitment, his mother sends him to live in Cream with his father, Jason Furioso Styles, so that he may learn proper manners. Upon arrival, Reba tells Jason that he can only teach his son to become a man. Seconds later, Treese bids farewell to his mother, who assures him that if he behaves well, he can return to live with her in that neighborhood. The boy reunites with his friends, Kreese and the Baker brothers, Darren and Rick. However, Jason does not allow him to play with them until he completes his chores at home, teaching him about work and responsibility. At night, 13 wakes up to go to the bathroom, unaware that a thief is attempting to break into the house. Fortunately, Jason notices the intruder and fires his pistol at the front door to scare him away. Minutes later, 2 officers arrive at the house to take Jason's statement. The Caucasian officer in charge is civil and professional, whereas the African-American officer displays hostility, complaining that Jason did not manage to injure the thief. The next day, Trey sets out with his friends, pausing only to look with interest at Brandy, a neighborhood girl whom everyone adores. As the youngsters head into another neighborhood, they come across a corpse lying in the bushes. At that moment, a gang of teenagers appears and demands that Ricky hand over his American football. Frightened, Ricky complies without resistance. Darren tries to retrieve it, but ends up being beaten by the gang's leader. As the group of children walks on, dejected, a remorseful gang member returns the ball to Ricky. Later, Jason takes his son fishing while recounting his experience as a soldier in the Vietnam War and warning him that black men should never enlist in the army. Upon returning home, they see Darren being arrested for theft, all under the disappointed gaze of Mrs. Baker. We then jump to 1991, where a neighborhood barbecue in Crenshaw celebrates the release of Darling, who was imprisoned for subsequent crimes and now belongs to a gang called Los Crepe, along with his new gang allies, Monster and Doki. Also present are childhood friends: Chris, who is now disabled as a result of a shooting, Ricky, a star American football player at Crash High School, and Crash himself, who lives with his mother Brenda, his girlfriend Shanice, and his small child. For his part, Trey has grown into a responsible and mature teenager, staying away from conflicts, working in a mall store, and being Brandy's partner. Upon returning home, Trey has a conversation with his father, who notices that the young man has already lost his virginity. With no alternative, Trey recounts the amusing story of how he had his first intimate experience with Tisha, a girl from a Catholic family. On hearing the entire tale, Jason warns him to use protective methods. Consequently, the girl takes a pill because she does not want to become a teenage mother like him. The next day, when Trey goes out with his friend Ricky, he confesses that he had lied to his father because he has not yet lost his virginity. He goes on to say that although he wishes to, his girlfriend Abraham resists the idea, preferring to wait until marriage due to her Catholic beliefs. In the next scene, we see Ricky training to earn a scholarship to the University of Southern California, while Trey visits his girlfriend to express his concerns about having sex. Although they begin arguing about the topic, they eventually reconcile and show affection for one another. That night, Trey receives a phone call from his mother, complaining that he hasn't visited her lately. Soon after, Reba asks to speak with Jason, requesting that he allow Trey to move in with her, though in the end, it is the young man who decides to stay. At the same time, Lewis, a recruiter from the University of California, shows up at Ricky's house to assess his interests beyond American football and determine if he is eligible for the scholarship. Meanwhile, outside the house, Darren and his gang-affiliated friends fantasize about what they would do if they could attend college. At the close of that conversation, the recruiter tells Ricky that he must score at least 700 points on an upcoming cognitive aptitude test to earn the scholarship. Shortly thereafter, we see Ricky at high school taking that test alongside Trey. During the exam, Ricky appears somewhat disoriented and insecure, but soon becomes more assured and relaxed, continuously refocusing on the exam. Afterward, the duo visits Jason at his financial office. Noticing that the two young men do not fully understand what he does, Jason takes them to the Compton neighborhood and gives them a lesson on the dangers of declining property values in the African American community. He adds a speech explaining how high society exploits neighborhoods of people of color, claiming that they send weapons and drugs so that these communities end up killing each other. Jason's words are so revealing that both the neighbors and the young gang members from that area agree with him. At dusk, Ricky, Trey, and others attend a car show in Creation where many gangs have gathered. While they are talking, a member of the Bloods purposely trips Ricky. Immediately, Darren jumps out of his car, brandishing his pistol to scare off the Lost Blogs gang. It seems that the atmosphere has once again calmed, but suddenly shots ring out, fired from the weapon of a Lost Blogs gang member. In response, everyone immediately flees. On the way, Ricky expresses his desire to leave Los Angeles as soon as possible, tired of the constant armed conflicts. However, they are stopped by a police patrol. Two officers emerge and examine Trey and Ricky, suspecting them of being involved in the shooting. One of these officers turns out to be the same one Jason had called 7 years earlier to report a thief at his house. Intoxicated with contempt, the officer then threatens Trey with his weapon, proclaiming that he became a police officer to eliminate young African Americans from neighborhoods like theirs. However, he ultimately lets the pair of friends go after hearing a notice on his radio. After that, Trey visits his girlfriend, who breaks down in tears, overwhelmed by her frustration at being unable to do anything against the abuse of power. Brandy manages to soothe him by taking him to her bed and sharing their first intimate encounter. The next day, Reba and Jason meet in a restaurant where she makes it clear that she believes one is old enough to make his own decisions. She demands that Trey move into her new house, arguing that he has already spent 7 years living with his father. Meanwhile, Ricky sees a commercial for the American Army, sparking a new interest in him in case he does not succeed as a football player. At that moment, his girlfriend interrupts him to ask that he buy flour for their baby's meal. After leaving the house, Ricky asks his brother to do him that favor, but his brother becomes angry, pushing him and calling him the family's favorite. Immediately, Brenda appears, slapping Darren and defending Ricky. Later, on the way to the store, Ricky confesses to Trey that he wishes to join the Army, believing that he has not yet taken the aptitude test. Shortly after buying the groceries, they see a car belonging to Lost Blogs. They quickly run into an alley in an attempt to evade it. At that moment, Ricky suggests that they split up to avoid drawing attention. As Treese turns to look back at his friend, he sees him intercepted by Lost Blogs. One of them fires a shotgun, killing Ricky on the spot. Seconds after the Bloods flee, Darren and his gang arrive and find their dead brother in the arms of a distraught Trey. Saddened, they carry the young man's body to his home, where Brenda blames Darren for what happened, attempting to hit him and hurling insults. Although Brenda is restrained by Trey outside, the neighbors hear the commotion and learn of Ricky's death. Amid the ensuing scandal, Trey storms back home in fury, taking his father's pistol. His father sees him and convinces him to return the weapon, embracing him to offer comfort. Seconds later, Brandy wakes up at her home expecting to see her boyfriend, but when she enters his room, she sees him fleeing out the window with Darren. That night, Trey sets out to avenge his friend alongside Lost Creeps. However, midway through the journey, he changes his mind and asks to be let out of the car, while Brenda examines the results of her late son's test, discovering that he scored 710 points. We return to Lost Creeps, who have encountered Lost Blogs, among whom is the man who killed Ricky, eating outdoors in a parking lot. As soon as they spot their rivals, Lost Blogs try to flee. However, they collapse on the pavement after Monster shoots them with a rifle to finish them off. Darren gets out and starts shooting each one of them, ignoring their pleas for mercy. At the same time, Trey returns home, adhering to his father's teachings, who had warned him against starting a new cycle of violence. The following morning, a melancholy Darren visits Trey, acknowledging his reasons for getting out of the car and asking for forgiveness for having let him go with him in the first place. The gang member then continues his monologue, complaining that American authorities care more about events abroad than in their own neighborhoods. He also confesses that he is now without a family, as his mother and Shanice blame him for Rake's death, accepting that in a short time they will try to kill him too. In response, Trey embraces him, telling him that he will always have a brother in him. The epilogue reveals that Darren attended his brother's funeral the following day and was killed in a shootout 2 weeks later near his own area. Trey enrolled in a university in Atlanta, while Brandy enrolled in another nearby, Esperman University.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.